Let's see if Amazon has it. Oh, yeah, this one comes with a steelbook. That's pretty cool. I wonder how much £71 is in euros. Oh no! Please no! Well, it's official. I can't afford new games anymore. Hope you guys are still cool with me just reviewing old shit from now on. Thankfully, old games are still amazing. And there's one relatively old game in particular I've wanted to talk about for well over a year now. Wanted Dead is a third-person action game that combines fast-paced hack-and-slash gameplay with third-person shooting to create something that is truly unlike anything else seen in the industry. Well, except Devil's Third, but we don't need to talk about that. Wanted Dead was developed by Soleil, a small Japanese studio comprised of staff that previously worked on the Ninja Gaiden series. They also developed the surprisingly solid Samurai Jack and Valkyrie Elysium. They also worked on Devil's Third, but we don't need to talk about that. Wanted Dead was released on Valentine's Day 2023, which explains why I didn't get to play the game at launch, as I was too busy pleasing the ladies. Well, ladies, the final scores are in, and you'll be happy to hear that conversation-wise, you're all very, very adequate in that regard. I had some amazing discussions with you all, and thank you for that. As far as kissing goes, however, while most of you did score very well, I'm sorry, Zeno. My mother came in while me and you were making out, and it was quite difficult to have to see her so upset like that and having to explain exactly what was going on. So I've had to dock you a few points. No, please stop crying. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with... I told you it has nothing to do with you. Wanted Dead was received... Holy shit, okay. I didn't expect it to be that low. Wanted Dead received mixed reviews at launch, with critics having serious issues with the game's clumsy combat, punishing difficulty, and confusing story. However, even critics who didn't enjoy the game overall said that they could still see Wanted Dead gaining a cult following due to its ridiculously over-the-top violence and how charmingly weird the whole game was. And that's exactly what happened.
The cathartic satisfaction I get as Hannah stabs, dismembers, and shoots guard after guard is probably the closest I've ever felt to actual bloodlust.
I'd even say that it is my favorite 6 out of 10 game of this year so far. And I'm being dead serious, because you might be like, a 6 out of 10? Really? And yes, absolutely. In fact, Wanted Dead has just got me thinking about this whole review score thing in general.
I'm going to be honest, I was reluctant to give Wanted Dead a try because of its polarizing critical reception. It wasn't until the game went on sale for like 60% off that I finally made the plunge. And within the first 10 minutes of starting the game, the only regret I had was that I hadn't given Wanted Dead a try way sooner. That's not to say the game was perfect. The combat could still be quite clunky at times, and the voice acting...
Alright, knock it off.
You seem to be very hostile today, Hannah.
Shut the hell up, all of you!
Not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Well, let's just say that I never envied deaf people more than I did that night. But despite these issues, I ended up having a blast with Wanted Dead. Its gloriously over-the-top violence and the almost Lynchian absurdity of its plot and characters made Wanted Dead an instant classic in my eyes. It's also worth noting that the developers have taken a lot of the criticisms Wanted Dead received at launch very seriously, and have since made huge strides in improving the game. The current build of Wanted Dead is a massive improvement over what we received at launch. Soleil completely rebalanced the skill tree so that more important upgrades could be unlocked earlier in the game, and Wanted Dead's punishing difficulty was also rebalanced. It's worth noting that while Wanted Dead is still an incredibly challenging game in its current form, it was almost broken at launch. Some hardcore fans were predictably upset about the game being made a little bit more accessible, but since Japanese hard is still as rage-inducingly bullshit as ever, I don't really see the issue. In fact, the improvements Wanted Dead has seen over the last 2 years are so significant that even most of the recent Steam reviews have been singing the game's praises. And I'm sure if all those critics who reviewed the game at launch were to reappraise Wanted Dead now, the Metacritic average would surely shoot up from a 57 to a, I don't know, maybe a 62 or 63. Also, the social media guy for the Wanted Dead Twitter account is just a fucking legend. I don't use Twitter anymore for obvious reasons, but if you can, please check out this account. These guys just desperately try to remind people every day that Wanted Dead exists, and some of the lengths they go to accomplish that task are just fucking absurd. When the game box says 17 years, but you managed to finish it in 2 weeks. Ha! Nice one, guys. I mean, I know I'm not always the most mentally stable person around, but please, if any of you guys ever encounter me doing a Wanted Dead word search with my Sunday morning coffee, just call the local mental asylum because I have officially given up on life. I don't know if I've made it obvious enough by now, but I adore Wanted Dead. It's one of my favourite games of all time. I love the brutal combat, I love the crazy over-the-top finishing animations you can perform on enemies, I love the batshit insane story, I love how there is a level set in a nightclub where every enemy clearly has the same voice for some reason.
You're dying. Right here. Is that all? I can smell your fear. Get off of him! Just die, shithead.
I started out as Roadrunner.
Meep. You mean meep meep?
No, they only paid me to say it once, then they doubled it up on the soundtrack. Cheap bastards.
I love how there is a UFO catcher minigame, where one of the prizes you can win are episodes of a cooking show, hosted by Stephanie Houston of MGS5 fame, where she progressively starts to lose her mind more and more as the series progresses.
My producer asked me to read one of your letters because we're getting so many. Gunther Storch writes, Dear Vivian, my name is Gunther and I'm death row inmate B2155 at the Zukatsky Island Maximum Security Prison. I've been a lifer after the war, but when I stabbed the warden with a makeshift stiletto, they decided to give my stay a free upgrade. On Sundays,
There's like 30 minutes of this stuff, by the way. I love how the terrible ramen eating minigame has like a dozen different songs you can unlock, but the actual karaoke minigame has only one song, 99 Luftballons, and it sounds like this.
99 Luftballons auf ihrem Weg zum Horizont. Geht man Fuß aus dem Haar, der Wunsch für ein General, ein Flieger startet.
I love that there's a chainsaw weapon in the game that, when used, slaps a big censored sticker on the screen, even though you can still clearly see the guy's blood and guts flying everywhere. Oh, and the loading screen is just a fucking super hot fire meme for some reason. From top to bottom, Wanted Dead is complete insanity, and I can't get enough of it. In only a year, I've completed the game at least 10 times. The game is only about 6 hours long, to be fair, but the fact that I've put 60 hours of my very short time on this earth into this game should easily show how, well, mentally ill I really am. Before I go any further, I'm sure by now you've noticed this watermark in the corner. Well, unfortunately my capture card stopped working recently, so I've had to capture my footage for this video using the PS5's built-in capture software. This method is usually passable but not ideal, especially in the case of Wanted Dead, where the developers thought it would just be the best idea ever to stick this annoying watermark in the corner of all footage captured. Hopefully it isn't too distracting, but the good news is that you guys actually have the power to help me afford a new capture card even sooner by turning off adblocker. Look lads, it's either this or I'm going to have to start advertising my own products to you during these videos. Hoovy, I love you, but I just wish I could understand what you're thinking sometimes. Have you ever wondered what your vacuum cleaner is thinking at various points during the day? Well, wonder no more. Introducing Hoovy. Hoovy makes wildly inappropriate puns based on sucking things. I'm gonna suck the ever-loving out of you. Been a while since you've been sucked, has it? With Hoovy by your side, your floors will sparkle like never before. I'm gonna suck every last drop of out of your cock. Oh, Hoovy. Hey guys, I thought I should add a quick disclaimer for people who maybe aren't familiar with my sense of humor or my content. Please don't turn off your fucking ad blocker. The internet is a very dangerous place these days, and I think an ad blocker is a necessity. And trust me, I will be okay without the 2 cents I'd get from you turning off ad blocker. So yes, please take care of your family and yourself, and just forget about turning off ad blocker for any reason whatsoever. Thanks. Look, I'm going to be honest, I don't really have a clue what Wanted Dead's story is about. I understand the vague elements of the plot, but not much more besides that. What I do know is that at the beginning of the game, a ragtag team of ex-convicts are released from prison and brought together in order to undertake missions considered too dangerous for regular citizens. These convicts include our protagonist Hannah Stone, and while there's a lot to say about Hannah and her backstory, what's more important is that she sounds like this.
Lieutenant?
I have some eggs, beans, bacon, make it 4 slices. No, 5. Definitely 5. A few pancakes on the side, some syrup.
Sorry, but that's just the way things are. I've made my peace with it, and so will you if you intend to play this game for any more than 5 minutes at a time. Little is known about Hannah at the start of the game, but through some anime flashback sequences littered throughout the story, we begin to get little hints about her past, and it seems like she had anything but an easy life growing up. But honestly, with a voice like this,
Okay. You need me to sign something?
she probably deserved a lot of difficulty in her life. Also on the team is Cortez, a deaf black man, which is a combination of words I never thought I'd use in my life. I mean seriously, how come black people don't ever be deaf?
I would really prefer if you would be quiet.
He's one of my favourite characters due to the simple fact he doesn't have a voice actor, which, when considering the overall quality of voice acting in this game, is a very, very good thing. Doc is probably the only quote-unquote normal member of the team. He's quiet, nerdy, and seems very depressed over his current lack of a love life. I hate how much I relate to him. More importantly, however, he's easily the most useful member of your squad during gameplay, as he's the only one who is able to revive you when you die during combat. Finally, there's Herzog, who is a complete piece of shit, although occasionally a likeable one. He's a womanizer, incredibly rude, and tells filthy jokes.
So, check this out.
Yeah.
A guy wakes up. Massive hangover.
So?
Massive hangover. He's about to throw up and shit. He notices that he's naked, like no jeans, no undies. He reaches for his dick, and he finds that he has 4 balls.
Okay.
So, he immediately grabs his phone and dials his old man. Dad, I woke up the morning after, and suddenly I have 4 balls. His dad goes, "Get out of there, son, you're being fucked."
Oh, I swear to God, I have overthought this joke so fucking much. Does it make any sense? I'm genuinely curious what kind of position this guy would have. You know what? It doesn't matter. Despite his flaws, Herzog is probably the most fun character in the game, and seems to be the one the developers liked the most too. Personally, my favourite character has to be Vivian, or Gunsmith as most of the team calls her. Gunsmith is played by the absolutely stunning Stephanie Houston, who, as I previously mentioned, is best known for portraying Quiet in MGS5. She also performs many tracks from the game's OST, which mostly comprise of massive hits from the 80s, like She Works Hard for the Money.
Don't just look at it. Eat it.
Being one of the only professional actors in the cast, Stephanie's performance as Gunsmith is masterfully done.
Stone,
tell Eleanor Abernathy that we're not here for the entropic view?
I heard that. What the fuck are you talking about? Both of you.
The anthropic principle is a philosophical consideration that any data we collect about the universe is filtered by the fact that in order for it to be observable in the first place, it must be compatible with the conscious and sapient life that observes it.
I think we broke her.
Gunsmith is the oddball of the team, and has many of the best lines in the game as a result.
Vivian, why the hell are you wearing this uniform? You're not even with the Force.
It really brings out my eyes.
Your eyes are green.
So?
Other characters include the commander, who just basically tells the team over and over again how they're the only family he ever had.
Shut the hell up and listen. I raised your outfit like my own children. I was always there like a good father when some of you made a mess. What I didn't have is children. I guess that I was never fit for fatherhood.
Sir, I just want to say...
You shut the hell up, Herzog. I ain't done yet. You motherfuckers are like my own children. You're the closest thing I have to a family. You dig?
The main baddie, who, no word of a lie, sounds like this.
Shut the hell up. On your knees. Hands. So I can see them.
And guy in security footage who gets shot in the leg for no apparent reason.
I've seen that. You fucking bitch!
However, despite liking many of the characters in this game, for reasons I genuinely can't explain, that does not mean the writing is good. In fact, at times, it's genuinely fucking awful. Take this scene between Hannah and Gunsmith. Hannah is handing over her weapons to Vivian for her to optimize before the next mission. During their conversation, they start talking about relationships, and it's just... holy shit.
How are things with Oliver?
Not good. Definitely not good.
You don't live together anymore?
We do. Kinda. Sorta. He drops by every now and then. We watch a movie or something. I feel like we are done, you know, but he's still coming back with the weight of the whole world on his shoulders. He's either on a night shift at the...
Who the fuck are you people? And why am I listening to your goddamn relationship problems?
We got a new client at the bank. We'll make a lot of money.
What client?
I cannot tell you. It's confidential.
Oh, come on. Why not?
No, I can't. Anyway, how is your sex life?
Done.
What?
Your rifle is ready, Hannah.
Oh, well, thank Christ for that. Finally.
What happened then?
Nothing really. We just
I don't fucking... Honestly, as poor as the writing can be in Wanted Dead, I grew to love nearly all these characters over the course of the game. They have a genuine camaraderie with each other that is so rare to see in games these days. Honestly, if Wanted Dead 2 was announced tomorrow, I'm not crossing my fingers on that one, the thing I'd be excited most about would be getting to spend more time with these characters, to be honest. The main draw of Wanted Dead is of course in its over-the-top hack and slash gameplay. It's fast, fun, and deliciously violent. It also doesn't make a great first impression, to be honest. I remember being very underwhelmed for the first half hour of the game during my initial playthrough. You and your team enter a large building to stop terrorists or some shit, and are immediately ambushed by several enemies. I began firing back at these guys and immediately thought to myself, oh shit, have I just purchased a cheap, shitty Gears of War clone? However, a few minutes later, this happened. And all was forgiven. While you can play a lot of Wanted Dead hiding behind cover, you'd be doing yourself a massive disservice by doing so. Wanted Dead is at its best when you are seamlessly switching between shooting and slashing. For example, blowing an enemy's arm or leg off will leave them vulnerable to a finishing move, which requires you to get up close and personal with the enemy, instead of cowering behind cover. On top of that, many enemies will rush your position if you decide to stay in cover, so you are always incentivized to keep moving. Enemies are incredibly bullet spongy, and ammo is not plentiful, so quite often you may find yourself out of ammo and having to rely on your katana to get through a fight. I feel like a lot of people dumped on the melee combat in Wanted Dead, simply because they didn't realise all the hidden depth this combat system has to offer. For example, it is possible to cancel out of practically any attack at any time, which allows you to pull off crazy shit like this if you can get the timing down. The combo system isn't well explained in the game at all, which is why I wouldn't be surprised if most people simply ended up massing square 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 to get through most fights in the game. But there's depth there if you go looking for it. For example, pressing square square will perform a basic combo with your katana, as I've already mentioned. However, by firing your sidearm during the middle of a combo, you can actually augment Hana's current katana attacks. So for example, by pressing square square triangle square square, the combo you pull off will instead look something like this. It's an odd combo system to be sure, and takes some effort to get the hang of, but it also allows a near limitless variety of combo strings to be pulled off by the player. Well, I say limitless, it's probably only 9 or 10 combos, but it's still better than nothing. Your teammates are pretty much useless at the start of the game. However, you can level up their abilities using the skill tree system to make them far more effective in combat. For example, unlocking Herzog's skill allows him to pull off headshots on nearby enemies, while Doc will be able to supply Hana with extra healing syringes. Speaking of the skill tree, it's one of the best implementations of a skill system I've ever seen in a game. Unlike many other games that have a skill tree system, Wanted Dead's does not feel superfluous. Practically every unlockable skill in Wanted Dead is a game changer. For example, one of the first skills many players will unlock in the game is Bullet Time. This skill allows players to pull off an incredibly powerful attack when the gauge in the bottom left hand corner is filled. It's safe to say that when used effectively, this skill might just be a little overpowered. Other unlockable skills include counterattacks, the ability to slide around while firing your gun, which is way more fun than it has any right to be, and even the ability to throw grenades, which for some reason isn't unlocked from the start. Does Hana have to level up in order to be able to fucking throw stuff? Skills are unlocked by spending XP, and you gain XP from performing well in combat. So for example, if all you are doing during most combat encounters is simply cowering behind cover and gunning down enemies from a safe distance, you will only receive a minuscule amount of bonus XP. On the other hand, getting up close and personal with enemies and killing them with stylish finishers will net you far more bonus XP. It's a great system that rewards skilled play and mastery of the combat system. The first few hours of Wanted Dead play far more like a third-person shooter with occasional melee combat than a full-on hack-and-slash action game. Most of the enemies you'll encounter in the first 2 stages will be simple military grunts that don't pose much of a challenge, and for that reason, it's much easier to gun these guys down than waste time slicing them up. However, the further into the game you progress, the more these guys begin getting relegated to the sidelines, while far more bullet-resistant and melee-focused enemies begin appearing in greater numbers. The ninjas are probably my favourite enemies to fight, as they are really challenging and can kill you in just a second or two if you are not careful. Ninjas come in 3 varieties. There's the brown ninjas that aren't a massive threat but can be a headache to deal with in larger numbers. Then there are the white ninjas. These guys are a major threat and can take a lot of punishment before they finally kneel over and die. Finally, there are these guys who can be a complete nightmare at the best of times. Their attacks can be very difficult to parry, and they are even able to attack from a distance with shurikens. In fact, these guys were so overpowered at launch that the developers had to patch them to make them much easier to deal with. Shooting the ninjas is usually a lost cause, as these guys will happily soak up most of your ammunition, and having no bullets in Wanted Dead can be a death sentence. Instead, it's usually a better idea to let them get close to you and try to whittle down their stamina by parrying their attacks perfectly. Parrying attacks in Wanted Dead can be very challenging and usually require split-second timing, but the feeling when you successfully pull off a string of 3 or 4 perfect parries in a row is incredible. Sekiro is the only game that comes close to having a parrying system nearly as satisfying as Wanted Dead's, in my honest opinion. However, it's worth noting that not every attack can be parried in Wanted Dead. Sometimes enemies will begin to glow red, which means an attack cannot be parried. When this happens, you need to instead quickly counter-attack with your pistol. The timing on this can be a real fucker, but again, the feeling when you pull it off perfectly is incredible. There is no feeling more satisfying than being able to take down a difficult enemy without even breaking a sweat. The ninjas will probably give most players a lot of trouble during their first playthrough. However, with enough practice, you'll eventually be able to take these guys down in under 5 seconds, and you will feel like a total badass when you do.
Over it then. What you got for me, May?
A doctor. I think
doctor?
he's the one that cut my legs off.
Sorry?
I think that's the doctor that cut my legs off. I have no legs.
However, that's not to say that everything is perfect with Wanted Dead's combat. There are some pretty aggravating bugs and glitches that can occasionally cause a lot of frustration. For example, when firing the grenade launcher, there is a slight chance that you instantly blow yourself up instead, and no one seems to know exactly why this happens. On top of that, the camera in the last mission is simply atrocious and will almost certainly result in plenty of deaths. These issues have unfortunately remained completely unpatched since release. As I've previously mentioned, Wanted Dead can be an incredibly difficult game at times, and never is that more true than when fighting one of the game's many bosses. Even the first boss encounter, which for some reason is this big metal tank that wouldn't look out of place in a Metal Gear game, will probably drive many players to madness. The tank can't be effectively damaged with regular weapons, and so you instead need to kill this guy who has a grenade launcher. But like, this frickin' thing only has 6 shots, and once you are out of rounds, you need to wait for another guy with a grenade launcher to show up, so that you can continue attacking the tank. But like, the entire time this fucking thing is just flying all over the place, running over you again and again before you even have a chance to react. However, as bad as all this is, the second boss fight is where most players will probably throw in the towel. So about halfway through the game, you are thrown into a fight with an android called August. This guy is an absolute bastard, who took me well over an hour to beat during my first playthrough. There are 3 phases to this fight, and if you die at any stage, it's right back to the beginning of the boss encounter. The fight starts with August ordering his men to attack you, all while he fires grenade rounds at you from a distance. If you somehow manage to survive this phase, August jumps down and joins the fight. From here, he will constantly switch between shooting you from a distance and attacking you up close, all while his remaining men continue to try and take you out. Finally, once you've dealt enough damage to August, he will throw down his guns and fight you in a one-on-one battle to the death. The issue with this guy is that his melee attacks do a shit ton of damage, and it just sucks to have to do the entire 5-minute fight all over again because you failed to block 1 or 2 attacks. According to the trophy list, this fight was the breaking point for a lot of players, which is a shame because once you learn his attack patterns, it does become a great fight. And without spoiling the last handful of bosses in the game, if you are able to defeat August, you'll easily be able to beat any other challenges the game may throw at you. So from how I've been talking about Wanted Dead so far, it probably sounds like I think it's a fun but fairly by the numbers hack and slash action game. However, there is one aspect of Wanted Dead's combat that puts it way above most other action games for me, and that is the finisher system. Now, before I continue, keep in mind that I'm a sociopath, and while I derive an uncomfortable amount of pleasure from shooting a guy in the stomach before cutting off his head, in the game, in Wanted Dead the video game, I also understand that to a lot of people this is just excessive violence for the sake of it. But to me, Wanted Dead's finisher system is the cherry on top of the kinda shitty but occasionally tasty chocolate cake. If you have ever watched John Wick and thought to yourself, I wish there was a video game that allowed me to do this kind of thing, well, wish no longer. Wanted Dead is the closest thing to a John Wick game we're ever going to get. And no, John Wick Hex does not count.
hell was that?
Not only are these finishers stylish as fuck, but they are also all fully mocapped, which means these amazing animations were all performed in real life. Even this one. There are over 50 of these finishers, so you are unlikely to ever see the same animation play out twice in a row. It keeps the system from ever feeling repetitive, and in a fucked up kind of way, there's a morbid pleasure in not knowing how Hannah will finish off her next enemy. So that's Wanted Dead. I honestly could have continued talking about this game for another half hour, but I don't want to spoil every surprise the game has to offer. This is probably the first time I've ever truly adored a game that was considered very mediocre by the majority of critics who reviewed it. But I genuinely think anyone who approaches Wanted Dead with an open mind will have a great time with it. Its story is nonsense but fun. Its characters are utterly horrendous and yet strangely endearing. And its combat is borderline broken and yet some of the most fun I've ever had with a hack and slash action game. In fact, I loved the game so much that I instantly went out and bought the collector's edition upon completing the game for the first time, and I never do stuff like that. Wanted Dead should not work, and yet somehow when all of its strange and schizophrenic pieces are put together, it somehow does. As crazy as this may sound to say, Wanted Dead is one of the greatest games ever made in my opinion, and I would honestly lose my goddamn mind if a sequel was ever announced one day. Wanted Dead is simply put a misunderstood masterpiece. Hey guys, thanks for watching my video as always. It's going to be a super short end sequence this month because it's currently 4 AM in the morning and I am fucked and I have to get up for work in about 4 hours. So I just wanted to say thanks as usual for watching my video, and I initially planned for this video to go on a bit longer and maybe do an unboxing of the collector's edition and everything else, but honestly this video took so long and I'm so burnt out from even looking at it that I just had to get it out. So yeah, I also wanted to talk about stuff like Clair Obscura because I finished it a few weeks ago and it's absolutely incredible, but that will also have to wait for another video. But I have some cool projects coming up that I don't want to talk about just yet, but hopefully now at the end of the next video now I'll be able to mention some cool stuff I've been working on. So yeah, please look forward to that. I'm thinking of holding a poll for what my next video should be. I'm currently undecided between A Quiet Place and Conscript. They're both survival horror games, but they're both very, very different. And both interesting in their own ways. So I might put up a poll to see which one you guys would rather see, and leave a comment too if you would like to voice your opinion on which game you would prefer seeing reviewed next. So I think that's about it for now, guys. Sorry it's been super short, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like it if you did, please dislike it if you didn't, and remember to subscribe, and thank you for watching. Bye.